No?
Yeah, I've experienced that, and mostly in my work it's like that. But then there are these moments, the feeling of having to do something, of the consequences of not doing it, making things worse. This,
Exactly, yes. You don't have to do anything, but once you take a decision to take a duty or some space in something, whenever arises something that you have to do and you tell yourself you don't feel like doing it, nobody push you to do it. You take responsibility for your decisions. And you do it. Everything has some things that are a little bit more difficult than others. Every work, every dedication, you see? But you can't just entertain the victim in you that suddenly don't want to do it. You have to see the whole picture. You follow what I'm saying?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
You have to see the whole picture. You have to see. You don't have to be over. You don't have to feel overcome. It's just like, oh, God, I don't want to do this bit of the work. You're just looking at one bit of the work. You don't look at the whole picture of what's happening. If you lose the sight, you see, if you lose the sight of the whole picture, then the little steps can be heavy. But if you have clear the whole picture, the little steps are just steps. You understand? They're just steps within your vision. You can't lose the vision. You can't lose the sense of service. You can't lose the sense of being of good. You can't stop working for humanity. You can't. If you lose that, then it makes no sense to work. It makes no sense to do anything, as a matter of fact. You understand? So even if it's very simple work, you have to see the big picture. You have to see how that is good for those who surround you and those in your company and in your spheres of relationships. You are vibrating permanently, and you have to make sure you vibrate goodness. You vibrate goodness, because that's good for everyone. You can't stop vibrating. So long as the body is alive, you're vibrating through every cell. And you can vibrate goodness. And you can vibrate the other things too. So you have to become a source of goodness in your environment, in your family, in your neighborhood, in your office, in your work. You have to be responsible so you can do a humble little sand of grain of sand in that huge collective. Most of us are hypnotized by great ideals, but what is required is in your neighborhood, in your family, the love that is required and the dedication is required in your office. And we think that people in Africa need our help. People beside your door need help. You don't need to fly to Africa to find people who need help. People in your office need help. People in your work. First, you need to know how you are, which is already a fallacy. Second, you need to know how you should be, which is an illusion. That's a personal crisis. In terms of the world and things, first you need to think to know how things should be, which is an idea. Second, you need to describe how things are, which is an illusion. And between the things that how they should be, which is an idea, and the things of how they are, which is an illusion, crisis happen. So crisis is always the outcome of knowledge. And this is why the path of freedom, the path of peace, is a path without knowledge, without relative knowledge. Because for the outsider, you could see a person who is in peace in a total crisis. You describe his situation he's in a crisis, or this country is in a crisis, or this home is in a crisis. It's all. But for the one who is living it, if he's liberated from knowledge, there's no crisis. They don't lose the sight of peace, even though things, all the elements of what is happening, they could be called crisis. That person doesn't lose sight of peace. And that's what I talk when I refer to allow yourself to be depressed and things like that, because it's the knowledge of calling it depressed, the knowledge of calling that is not good, the knowledge of saying, well, it's dangerous, and all those knowledges make it much worse in your mind. You have a pressure, and eventually, when you try everything and you're in a mess and you just can't handle it anymore, you may have the light to confess to yourself, well, I don't know. Then a miracle happens. Why? Or if you're lucky enough to go to a place where somebody can challenge your knowledge and say, what do you know? Because normally people will approve of your knowledge. Yes, you're right. You shouldn't be depressed, or it's not good, or anything. But if you come to satsang, for example, and you get the help of somebody questioning your knowledge, then you reach the same point in which you confess to yourself you don't know. And the day you really, genuinely, honestly and openly confess to yourself that you know nothing, from that day you never lose sight of peace. You can't have peace with knowledge. Then you have to understand that, of course, what you know, there are studies, and you learn something in a particular science, and that's where we are at, and I know that, but you call it relative knowledge. From then on, it's relative. Yeah. Then you have a mind that flows within that science or within that profession, because it's a mind that is not pragmatic. It's not a mind that is static. It's a mind that is dynamic. Yeah. It's coming from the not.